You are welcome to the GMAT 41's mathematics class. In our class today, I'll be teaching you simplification of fractions. What are the things you need to know when handling problems on simplification of fractions? I'm going to quickly talk about that before we now pick questions to solve. The first and most important thing you should know about simplification is a rule known as the rule of BODMAS. Very important. BODMAS. Let's quickly look at the meaning of this. B there stands for brackets, which is the first thing you do. If you have bracket in any given problem, you solve that first before you consider other operation. O there stands for of or order of powers, or you can also call it order of roots. I'll come back to that. Let's move on to the next operation. D, division. That's the third thing you do. So you see, you have to finish off first before dealing with what? The division sign. Now the next one is multiplication. After that you do addition. After that, the last thing expected to be done in any mathematical expression that you're simplifying is subtraction. Please, I would like to quickly talk about this O and this N. Because O, which is of or order of powers or order of roots. When we are solving problems on it, we usually translate it to multiplication. But does it mean that this O is just normal multiplication? Well, it is true that we usually translate the multiplication when solving problem. But if you just take it as multiplication, you may land yourself into a serious trouble when some problems are given to you. I have this example I am going to consider quickly. Just imagine that I give you 24 divided by 4 brackets 8 divided by 4. Now if you work out this without respecting of not being a normal multiplication, the answer that this thing may give to you is 12. But I'm telling you that the correct answer to this thing is 3. Let us consider this quickly. This is read as 24 divided by 4 of bracket 8 divided by 4. That is 4 of 8 divided by 4. Which means that between this 4 and this bracket, we have the sign of there. We have it as of. So if I am solving this, it will be 24 divided by 4. Then bracket, I will work out the bracket first. 8 divided by 4 will give me 2. And then this will be 24 divided by, you see this, I have to work out this of first. 4 times 2 first. Are you getting me right? This is read as 4 of 2. 4 of 2. But when you are now translating the of in terms of mathematical sign, we use times. So 4 times 2 will now give us 8. And then 24 divided by 8, the answer will give you 3. This is correct. This is what? Correct. Correct. Now, I am going to do something and then you would see what is going to happen. You see clearly that the correct answer here is 3. Now, what if I decide to say of is just ordinary multiplication? Of is just normal multiplication. So that I now say that this problem here is 24 divided by 4 times 8 divided by 4. If I translate this quickly in this form, it will get me into trouble. Let's watch out. You finish up with the bracket, that's going to give us 24 divided by 4. Then times 8 divided by 4 will give you 2. Now look at the signs you have there. Division, that is the operations you have there. Division and multiplication. If you come to the rule of BODMAS, you know you need to finish up with division before what? Multiplication. So I will do 24 divided by what? 4, which will give me 6 times 2. And this will be equal to what? 12. And sadly, this is wrong. This is what? Wrong for this question given to us. That is why you don't need to quickly conclude that this letter O, which is of or order of power, is simply normal multiplication. Please take note of that. Like I told you, the correct answer of this is 3, not 12. Now let us look at this. I also talked about order of powers or roots. Order of powers or roots. Think about this. If you're given 2 times 3, then you now have divided by divided by, let's say, 5 squared. Okay, something like this. Which would you do first? You finish up with your brackets. This is 6 times 2 times 3, which is equal to 6, then divided by 5 squared. Now, this 5 squared is the same as, if you're working it out, 5 times 5. It's the same as 5 times 5. Permit me please to even change this to, let's say, 5. So that this will give me 10. Let it give me 10, okay? Now, this is the same as 5 times 5 if you're working it out. This power, order of power. So we expect to get something like 10 divided by 5 times 5. The question now is, which one of these will you do first? Is it 10 divided by 5 you are going to do first and then multiply by 5? Or are you meant to do 5 times 5, get 25 first, so that this will now be 10 divided by 25? Which one is correct? Is it this? Or would you say that the correct thing is 10 divided by 5 giving you 2, then 2 times 5? So this one is wrong. This is wrong. Why this is the correct thing? 10 divided by 25. According to order of powers, you are meant to finish up this power first, 5 squared. Even if mathematically 5 squared is translated as 5 times 5, you will not go and do division before handling this operation. Because from here, this is not normal 5 times 5. It is 5 raised to the power 2. So you finish up with the power first. Order of powers or root. Are you following? Before you come to division. Take note of this, very important. This has caused a lot of issues, okay? Especially on social media, where you see a particular problem given where we are to use the rule of BODMAS, and you would see people giving different answers to one particular question. Very funny, right? So this rule of BODMAS is very important, okay? Don't play around with this. Don't joke with it. Make sure you understand and follow the rule when solving problems. Okay, we are done with the rule of BODMAS. Another important thing you need to know when dealing with simplification of fractions or when working with BODMAS generally is how to count your number of terms. And here I have this example here. I have x plus y minus z. How many terms do I have here? Before I tell you about this, it's important to state that what helps us to count our terms in a given expression is plus and minus. Plus and minus are the operations that help us to count the number of terms correctly. Plus is always between 2 terms. Minus is also always between 2 terms. Multiplication and division are not used. Multiplication and division are not used in counting the number of terms. Take note of that. So here we have 3 terms. X is one of them. After this x you have plus. So the next thing you need to be taken as another term, which is y, making it 2 terms. After this y you have minus. Now the next thing you see will now become another term, which is z, making this to be 3 terms. Let us look at this quickly. X over y divided by a times z. Notice az plus bc, which is b times c if you're working it out. How many terms do we have here? It is true that the alphabet you see here, there are 6 of them, but actually in terms of counting the number of terms, there are 3 terms there. This x over y is taken as 1 term. Take note. Remember I told you that division is not used in counting number of terms. So this x over y is taken as 1 term. After that you have minus. So the next thing you need to be taken as another term, which is this az. A times z is taken as 1 single thing, making it 2 terms here. Then after this az you have plus. The next thing you need to be taken as another term, which is bc. So altogether we have 3 terms in this expression. What about this? We have 4 terms here, which are 6. 1 times 0. This 1 times 0 is taken as 1 term, making it 2 here. Then this plus 6, making it 3, and then minus 4, making it 4 terms. Now I want to believe that you've seen and understand how we count the number of terms in a given expression. What other things do you need to know while you're preparing to start solving questions on simplification of fractions? Basic knowledge of fraction is very important. Basic knowledge of fractions like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division of fractions. When I give you fractions to add or to subtract, what is it that you're expected to know? You need the knowledge of LCM. You don't need to be told anymore. If you have fractions being added or subtracted, just go straight on, get the LCM of the denominator and work it out. What about multiplication? How do you multiply fractions? You multiply numerator to numerator and then denominator to denominator. It's a simple one. Just imagine that you have 2 over 3 times 4 over 5. Now to multiply, you do 2 times 4, which will give us 8, all over 3 times 5, which will give us 15. So numerator multiplied by numerator, denominator multiplied by denominator. And then finally, division of fraction. How do you divide fractions? Now you have the principle here. You have to keep the numerator exactly the way it is, change the major division sign to multiplication, and then inverse the denominator fraction. What does it mean to inverse the denominator fraction? It means in the denominator, if you have a fraction there, the denominator of that fraction will go to numerator and its numerator will become denominator. Please, let me show this quickly for you to understand. Although we have this example here, x over y divided by a over b. So if I want to solve this out, I will keep x over y, the numerator of this fraction, exactly the way it is. X over y, you can say that. Then change this major division sign to multiplication and then inverse the denominator fraction. That is, turn it upside down, right? B will go up and then A will come down. Then having gotten multiplication, you can now multiply out. Let me show you this quickly. 2 divided by 3, let us say all over 5. All over 5. Or should I make it all over 10? How do you work out this? The numerator here is a fraction, which is 2 over 3. So you are expected to keep 2 over 3 exactly the way it is. This major fraction, change it to multiplication. This 10 standing alone here, any number, any term given to you standing alone can be divided by 1. So I can convert this 10 to fraction, okay? To fraction per se, dividing it by 1. So what do I now do to this denominator? The instructions say that you should inverse the denominator fraction. So this 10 over 1 will now become 1 over 10 times 1 over 10. And then you can now multiply out. I hope you understand this, right? This is how we carry out division of fraction. I think it is now time for us to pick questions and solve. We're going to use the knowledge of all I've explained here to handle whatever form of question given to us under simplification of fractions.